From my observation, I went to a third grade classroom at Mary Helen Guest Elementary. There was approximately 23 students in the classroom. Before the math lesson began, the students sat on the carpet listening to a read aloud, which was then followed by a brief session of yoga. To get the students thinking about math, the teacher placed a warm-up on the board. The warm-up asked the students to arrange the number 24 into 3 different arrays. They were to use the counters they were given and then translate the counters into X's on their paper. The students were encouraged to ask their peers for help. When everyone was finished with the warm-up, the teacher called upon 4 students to come up to the board and discuss the number arrays that they found. The math lesson for the day was representing number stories with arrays. For each story, the teacher asked the students to write the topic of the story, the number model, and then to draw an array for that model. For example, if there were 5 bookshelves with 4 books on each shelf, draw a number array to represent the number of total books. The students were again encouraged to ask their peers for help. After each story problem, the teacher called upon one student to come up to the board to answer the question. The students seemed eager and excited to be called upon, and most of the students raised their hands every time. After completing about 4 or 5 problems, the teacher asked the students to come to the carpet so she could explain the rules for Array Bingo. Array Bingo was meant to reinforce the concept of number arrays while allowing the students to play a game. Each student was given a set of cards with different number arrays on them, and they would be placed in groups of 2. The students would pull a card with a multiplication fact on it, and the person who pulled the card would have to say the multiplication fact aloud. So for example, if a student pulled a card that said 2 times 2, the student would have to say aloud 2 times 2 equals 4. And then both partners would look for the number array associated with the number 4. While the teacher was explaining the instructions, the students became loud and excited. To redirect their attention, she sang 1, 2, 3, which the students replied, "Eyes on me," to show they were paying attention. Unfortunately, we ran out of time before we were able to play the game. The students seemed disappointed, but were eager for the next math lesson so they could play the game. While they were cleaning up, many students came up to me and asked me for different numbers so they could create arrays of their own. Overall, I found the lesson to be very exciting and very fun. The students seemed to have a good understanding of the concept of number arrays by the end of the class.